Hey guys, I'm just going to go over the process of getting QuestMap Pro up and working with a project where you have your player transitioning between running around on foot and being in a vehicle or on a horse or something like that. There is a slight little hiccup with QuestMap where, because you're switching the pawn that is possessed, the map and compass stop working. So this is just a project where I've got the third person template and bashed it together with the vehicle template. And you can see I've got everything working. The map, compass, and mini map all work with the third person character. But as soon as we jump into this car, you can see that even when the car is moving, nothing is changing. The compass is stuck, the mini map is stuck, and the map opens and zooms, but nothing is updating here. So that's what we're looking at here. I will be pushing an update to Epic probably just after this video that will make this process a little bit easier. So the lifetime of this video may be a little bit short, but if you are sitting there trying to get this working, this is how you can do this for yourself in the meantime. So what we want to do is we want to jump into the components for QuestMap. So if we go into QuestMap, Blueprints, Components, we want to open the compass and the map component. So just open both of those up. And there's a couple of variables in here that we just want to change the privacy of. So if we go under the references category and we find player, we want to turn off private. Now I'll show you why this is. If we just open up the next blueprint, we're going to need content, so in the controller. If we were to drag off the map here and we go get player, we don't actually have the option in here. And the reason for that is because it's set to private. So we're going to change this over so it's no longer private, and we're also going to change the category just to default, and that is because the references category is hidden by default in QuestMap Pro, so that also hides it. We want to do that for both player and also for camera. So change the category and set private to off. Hit compile and save, and then you can close this one. And then in the compass, we want to do the same thing. Under references, find the player, change the category to default and turn private off. And get camera, change the category to default and turn private off. So now we have access to those variables in here. So if we drag off here, we can do set player. We might need to compile. Yep, there we go. So we can set player and it's in the default category. So the next step to do here, these steps are all written up in Discord, by the way, if you prefer to follow along with text. We want to create a new event. So right click and type in custom event and call this something like update possession. And down here, we want to give this event an input, and we want to change the input type to actor. So just a generic actor reference, and we'll just call this something like pawn, because this is going to be the pawn that we have now possessed. We're going to drag off of map, and we're going to go set player. I'm going to set that. And we're going to feed that the input of pawn. So now we're telling it the new pawn that has been passed through here that we have possessed, set that in the map. We want to do the same thing on the compass. Set player again. And just to keep this a little bit neater, because this is the same reference, we can just chain it through like that. Because this is all only ever going to be called at one point. Now we also need to do set camera on the map and set camera on the compass. Oops. So we also need to do these two. The easiest way to do this is to drag off of the player reference here, and we want to call the interface function get camera. It's under the QuestMap Pro category, and you'll see get camera and message. Make sure it says message. There is scenarios where you can see ones that do not. You want it to have message on it, so it's a blueprint interface message. That will give us our camera, and we can just pass that through to these guys like that. So that is our logic to do all of that. The last step is to jump into our pawns and just make sure that that logic is called. So we're going to open up, let's start with a third person blueprint in here. And down here, I've already got some possessed logic for switching the input mappings when we go to the new car. So we're just going to, this is the event we want here, event possessed. I don't think you can have both of them. No, it just goes to that one. So you want to find your event possessed or creator if you don't have it. And just at the end of this, what we want to do is give it some logic to update the controller. Now, ideally, you would probably create a blueprint interface and use an interface message for this. We're going to do the cheap and nasty version, which is to get player controller. And we're just going to cast that to our player controller blueprint. Now, hopefully you guys know not to cast too much in that, but that's neither here nor there for the purpose of this video. In general, you don't want to be doing this too often. On here, we want to call that new function we made called update possession. And we just want to plug that in and give it a reference to self. So that's that one there. Now, part of the integration of setting up QuestMap Pro is we fill out this here, this interface message. If you haven't done that, you will need to do that because this is that get camera function. So we're going to close that. We're going to go into our car by opening up our car blueprint. And down here, we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to do event possessed. I'm not sure if I've got one. I do, yep, for the same reason. So we're going to do the exact same thing. And in actual fact, we should have just copy and pasted. It would have been much easier. Just like that. Over here. And because this one has not been set up before, we don't have the get camera interface message set up. So we're going to click class settings. We're going to add player actor. So BP int QuestMap Pro player actor. And now we see the interface functions. We're going to open get camera and we're just going to tell it whichever camera it is that we want. So let's have a look at which camera this one is. This is the cockpit camera. We want the back camera for the setup that's running here. And we hit compile and save. And that should be it. There'll be a couple of other things we can look at. But if we go over here and jump into the car, yep, you can see that now we have the compass working, the mini-map's working, and the map is also working, along with the fog of war as well. So a couple of things you can change in this to make things a little bit more ideal is if you're doing a project like this, by default it's set up so the mini-map's showing which way the camera is facing, and that works okay with players, but it's a little bit awkward in cars when you're looking backwards to see the arrow pointing backwards. So what we can do... Oh, actually, there's another thing. So we also want to... That little error is because I think the car is trying to auto-possess an AI here, or be possessed by an AI. And because we are casting on possessed, here is giving us an error. So you can either drag off here and go is valid, and only carry through this when it's valid. That will get rid of the error. Or if you're not having AI that are taking control of your cars, you can just turn this off. And that should stop that error. Let's make sure. Yep. Okay, so what we were talking about is the mini-map arrow. So if we jump into our controller and go to map, we can go to the mini-map rotation. No, sorry, we don't want that. We want to go down to the player marker and we just want to say use character rotation. And that will make it a little bit, that will make it feel a bit better when you're in the car. Obviously you lose it now with the player, so you would need to set up a toggle on that possess event if you wanted it to happen there. But it does give a much better result because now the mini-map's showing which way the car is actually facing. Anyway, like I said, there will be an update coming out with this as well as the fix for teammates that has been mentioned in the Discord. That should be out soon. Hopefully Epic are a bit quicker on this one. But in the meantime, that's how you set up cars, the transition between cars and on foot. Cheers for watching.